I've been asked to talk a little bit tonight about the likely direction of the new London plan, and perhaps that will give some pointers to what City Hall's position will be on some of those kind of land use aspects contained within the 5 Pillars document. Of course, the London plan is one of the key tools, if not the key tool, that the Mayor has for delivering his manifesto commitments. And there's a central thread that runs through those commitments, and this is how the Mayor himself described it. I want to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, is able to share in and make the most of London's prosperity, culture and economic development. Because I want to build a London where no community feels left behind and where everyone has the opportunities they need to fulfil their potential. And the London plan will be the spatial expression of that ideal, and it's going to reflect the Mayor's ambition to make London a fairer city and, if I have my way, also a more beautiful city. Now, the London plan team here at City Hall, I think that they're the heirs of previous planners, from the Romans through Christopher Wren to Abercrombie and beyond, and many in between. And those city planners of the past all would have had their own aspirations for the city and would have had to contend with the problems of their day. On the very first page of Abercrombie's plan, he bemoans the difficulties of coordinating the capital's development. He speaks of the need for some competent person or persons to be at once authorised to prepare a plan for the reconstruction of London. Funnily enough, though, he's not actually referring to the time of his writing, London in the latter days of the Second World War. He's actually quoting Neville Chamberlain in 1920, who was chairing a rather prosaically named Unhealthy Areas Committee. Now, today, almost a century on, we have our own challenges still. A forecast growth of the population to more than 10 million, an affordable housing crisis that now affects relatively high income households, high land values and competition between land for housing and the need for employment space, austerity and a shortage of infrastructure funding, and a shortage of construction and other skills. But meanwhile, we've got the ambition to ensure all Londoners are able to benefit from the opportunities and prosperity that growth can bring, to plan for and actually deliver the good growth that London needs, and also to ensure we protect the things that help make London special and a great world city. Now, the Mayor's City for All Londoners document, published at the end of last year, I think gives a really good idea of the approach that the Mayor will be taking to deliver on his manifesto commitments. I'm sure all of you in the room will be familiar with the Mayor's determination to tackle the affordable housing crisis and the measures already taken, such as the supplementary planning guidance that's currently out for consultation. Through London plan policies, we'll be seeking to accommodate London's growth within its boundaries without eroding our greenbelt and other protected open spaces. We'll be looking to a wider distribution of growth opportunities and challenges across the capital, which would mean maintaining the strategic emphasis on regenerating the brownfield sites and the brownfield capacity of, say, East London, but also investigating other areas in outer London, for example. Realising the capacity of brownfield opportunity areas is going to continue to be crucial. They can accommodate at least 2,500 homes or 5,000 jobs each. We're also looking at better realising the potential of intensification areas, those smaller, relatively low-density areas in need of renewal, which have, or will have, good transport links. In the face of restructuring with the retail sector, there's likely to be greater emphasis in the new London plan on town centre renewal, through housing-led, higher density, mixed-use redevelopment, again, especially in centres which already have or will have good public transport access. Now, London's designated industrial land. Now, that's in effect low-cost business space, protected as such by the planning system. It's also long been a significant source of capacity for housing and out-of-centre retail and leisure. Now, in light of the London housing crisis, a key research question now is how much is essential to the functioning of our economy as a whole. It's shocking to think that the release of that land has been running at 3 or 4 times what has previously been assumed to be an acceptable benchmark for London to continue to function effectively. It's been released at 7 times that rate in central London. So emerging research is really suggesting that it should be lower. Now, this is likely to mean that any further releases are going to have to be managed very carefully, but I'm not saying that that means we are just going to preserve great swathes of land in aspic. quite the reverse. We've got to look to new ways, new forms of building, and think more seriously about the co-location of industry and other uses, and think far more imaginatively than we do currently, where all too many times people assume that co-location is a small supermarket on the ground floor of a high-resi block. Meanwhile, we want to continue supporting the critical role of the Central Activity Zone in accommodating our world city and its national function. This could entail refining policy to ensure that high-value housing doesn't erode capacity to sustain the economic base of the CAS and Canary Wharf, and also fighting unhelpful PD rights. We'll also be looking to Stratford and Old Oak and similar places to provide strategic office reserves to support CAS-type activities. Now, those are a few indicators about land use, and there's much more that I could say that speaks to the 5 pillars within the document. Skills for Londoners, for example, a task force that we're setting up, that the Mayor is setting up here at City Hall to address the skills shortages that we have in London that are only going to increase. Also devolution, I could talk here for hours, but I won't. And the great work that Tony has been undertaking on the LFC TUE, which, as he said, will be reporting at the end of the week. We do need much greater control over the money that's already spent in London. We're not asking for a bigger slice of the national cake. We are asking for greater control of the money that is already spent here in London, so that we can better invest in the capital for those people who live here. And all these measures are going to become all the more important as the uncertainty about Brexit continues. Though the clarification of the government's position should be welcomed, the resultant threat of World Trade Organization rules if agreement with the EU can't be reached, it's just self-defeating and dangerous. The Mayor's made clear that a hard Brexit, in his opinion, will be catastrophic for Britain. It can in no way be seen as a preferred outcome for London or indeed the rest of the UK. The prioritisation of the ending of free movement over promoting free trade is hugely misguided. It puts migration control ahead of the health of the UK economy and the jobs of thousands of Londoners as well as non-Londoners. I believe there's an appetite amongst European businesses for a mutually beneficial trading relationship, but the proper time needs to be given to negotiate a trade deal properly. This requires a comprehensive interim deal to cover the length of those trade negotiations, providing businesses on both sides with medium-term security. That deal could replicate, for example, temporary EEA membership. Now, it must be stressed that this is not remaining in Europe, but instead providing the UK and EU the time to make a mutually beneficial success of Brexit, because that is the task ahead of us. Today's judgment in the courts may create many new twists and turns along the way, but the government is determined that Britain will leave the EU. At City Hall, however long Brexit takes, whatever happens along the way, whatever the uncertainties, we're determined that London will remain the world's greatest, foremost, and fairest global city. Thank you very much.